Hi everyone, this is Jyotsna Hegde with NRI Pulse. Today we have with us a very special guest, Dr. Kamala Maddali. Dr. Maddali is the author of Becoming a Kamala. Well, it's not exactly a book about our very historic Vice President Kamala Harris, if that's what you're thinking, but this is the story of an incredibly resilient woman who has fought through, shined, and strived through so many physical and mental challenges in her life. Dr. Maddali, welcome. It's a pleasure and honor to have you with us today.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night throughout the world, whoever is listening or reading. Thank you, first of all, Joshna and NRI Pulse for inviting me to this wonderful, inspiring moment to share my journey and my intentions. Hello from Philadelphia. My native place is Kurnool in Andhra Pradesh. As a part of intro, I think it's very important to appreciate, the fact that, it was 85 out there and then I would land here, it's 30 degrees. And I'm like, what? Okay.
Dr. Maddali actually holds a doctorate in veterinary medical science from Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University in India. But she also holds a doctorate in pharmacology from the University of Missouri, Columbia. Now, she's a native, as she mentioned, of Andhra Pradesh. And Dr. Maddali is a precision medicine executive at Fortune 100 and 500 companies like Merck and Quest Diagnostics, unfortunately, terms most people are now familiar with. She has been, implementing corporate strategies, initiatives, helping advance, precision medicine for the past two decades, actually. And she has a strong medical, scientific, as well as rare disease roots, which gives her an edge as a visionary leader who fosters collaboration between medical, patient, and healthcare innovation sectors. Now, Dr. Maddali is the author of Becoming a Kamala, a memoir focused on unique journey, which basically unveils her various avatars, as she puts it, in her pursuit towards becoming a better human, woman, and a rare disease patient. We'll talk about that in detail later. In 2021, Dr. Maddali was awarded Pharma Voice 2021 Top 100 Most Inspiring Leaders in the Life Sciences and Healthcare Industry. The award is a prestigious and honorable recognition to be part of a select group of leaders, mentors, and visionaries in the life sciences who inspire change across their organizations, including 100 and Fortune 500 companies. Welcome, Dr. Maddali.
Thank you again for the wonderful intro. Yeah.
Well, you are a wonderful person. So, and now let's begin with the title of the book itself, Dr. Maddali, Becoming a Kamala. So I know that in reading your book, it has a lot to do with the way that you have shaped your life itself. So please elaborate on the title of the book.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And my apologies if I have stuttered speech. Obviously, as a rare disease patient, sometimes I have stuttered speech and also some sort of paralytic attacks. Hope to not panic anyone of you. It's quite normal for me. So thank you. So becoming the Kamala, I get really a lot of, how do I say, good memories whenever I hear the word becoming, first of all, because I'm sure many of us would actually kind of connect deeply and emotionally with this word. In any scenario, we'd be thinking, oh, am I becoming, right? So it's that inner voice. So I think it's the wave effect of that inner voice through various experiences that I have gone through consciously. There's some of the things that we accept that, oh my God, what am I becoming? Hopefully I'm becoming a good person. In many aspects, we are really battling with this sort of ambiguity scenarios, right? It can be in various phases, as I actually disclosed in my memoir, Becoming. I'm like, that's where through my journey, actually, as a rare disease patient, that was the inspiration, wherein I'm like, okay, I really need to document various aspects of my experience. What am I really becoming? But what I didn't realize was, first I started chronicling these signs into a journal. And then I started actually realizing, oh my God, this is really making me a better person when I'm really chronicling my experiences on a piece of paper, right? Uh, Same feeling we get that when we talk to a friend, right, about a situation or a scenario. That's when I decided 3 years ago, you know what, I am becoming a better person. But then as per trying to take my cultural roots coming from India, my mom, and I'm sure many of your parents or grandparents would have said, there's a purpose why your name is so and so, right? Right, like Joshna, your name, it gives a lot of hope to a lot of people, that meaning of the name. So, and when I started putting my experiences, I first thought I would chronicle my experience as a rare disease patient, what I'm battling with. Because being in healthcare, I wanted to document what I am doing. So that way I can connect with other patients as well.
Dr. Kamala, would you just sort of like to talk about what it is you're going through? Because I didn't I didn't make that part of the introduction,
No
so
problem.
people can understand.
So, I was diagnosed in 2011 with stroke-like signs in the mid of the night with a 3.5-year-old in my hand. Luckily, I was not driving. I was in the navigator seat. Paralytic attacks, and then 90 plus tests in ER, 3 days. Finally, demyelinating spots, meaning white spots, wherein if you take a nervous system nerve, the outer layer is gray and the inner layer is white. So gray matter and white matter. They found a couple of spots in my cerebellum, which is the back of the brain, that's where the balance center is. All the movements and musculoskeletal sort of movements are actually managed by the brain. They found 2 major spots. They thought it's multiple sclerosis, but now this is my 10th year. It's now mimicking multiple sclerosis, which is to connect to the I would say anyone. Mitt Romney's wife, is a multiple sclerosis survivor. And then Parkinson's-like signs. I'm also battling with Parkinson's-like signs. Very famous actor, Michael J. Fox.
Yes. Of the Back to the Future series.
Yes, absolutely. So my condition is now, it's a rare disease, but it's mimicking multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's-like signs. And the signs they're very unique for every patient. It's a mix, or some of them would have more, some of them would have less, certain type of signs. So it's tremors, twitches, paralytic attacks, fatigue, extreme fatigue. You would feel like a 90-year-old or a 3-month-old baby, so, and loss of, obviously, in all these conditions, depression, low esteem, so headaches frequently, and then paralytic attacks or something. And catatonic attacks is the most scariest part, wherein if you remember stop game or freeze game, right? Like wherein kids play, that's why I'm showing a couple of my fingers. So it's like, oh, then I would freeze like a piece of ice and I wouldn't respond. I'm requesting my body to lift my hand or my leg or trying to, talk.
And these episodes happen sporadically.
They happen sporadically and they try to happen more midday, wherein that's when the energy is wearing off. Okay. So it can vary from seconds to minutes to hours. That's why mind management is very important. Your energy management is very important, meaning not only physically, but your mental energy. That's how I would say. That's why so if you can imagine with a 3.5-year-old, and then sometimes even in the first 3 years, I remember even walking from a living room to a kitchen. This is very important because pain cannot be seen every time. This is very relevant in many disease conditions, including headache.
Yes.
Right? No, you cannot. So it used to take me 3 minutes to go from one room to the other. Imagine the confidence that I was losing.
Wow.
So really that's why I was like, after 6 years, after going through so many episodic events and also consultations, reviews with worldwide experts, being a doctor, being a scientist, imagine I've been questioning, I'm like, what am I becoming? What am I becoming? Right? But I've gone through those phases of fear. Yes, I am, how do I say, it is a genuine situation that I should be fearful, but do I really live in fear? Versus how do I really battle this? How do I, because that fear factor or any sort of insecure factor, any sort of situation, forget about my situation, but in general, for anyone, imagine how much it would curtail your potential. Even if you cannot think properly, you cannot even fix your coffee. That's how the most fabulous, being, which is a human being, can become completely dysfunctional. So this is one of the reasons it inspired me. I'm like, you know what? How am I really training my brain or soul to battle this? And when I started putting the various pieces of the sort of events, I'm like, really a Kamala who was 33-year-old that was diagnosed with this condition versus no, I want to start from day one of who I am.
Yes.
So that's when I started chronicling events. It's like, okay, who am I becoming? Okay, my name is Kamala, which is a blessing. So, and while I was writing this, that's when I realized, okay, who I really am, why am I named Kamala? Is the first question, genuinely, because my name is that. But it's one of the most ancient words in Sanskrit, which is one of the most ancient languages in the world. And it has a lot of significance in the Eastern cultures, in India, in Hinduism, in Buddhism, in Egypt, in Arabic. I realized while I was writing this book, I'm like, oh my God, this particular flower has such a huge significance. It can be seen as a full-blown flower, wherein some of the idols that India and many of the Southeast Asian countries worship sit on that, versus in Egypt, one of these Egyptian gods or heroes will be holding it, same in Arabic. So Kamala means a lotus. And why a lotus had this much significance in many of these cultures? Because once again, there's a purpose behind every sort of every sort of an entity or any sort of that we still are trying to learn, coming from the most complex culture in Britain. Right. So, but if you take, as a scientist, I'm like, okay, what is the lotus life? Let's now put the scientific side of it. How does a lotus grow? Lotus grows in muddy waters.
Yes.
Okay? So if the seed realizes that she's in muddy waters, would you think she or he would even ever try to bloom? Right?
That's the thing about the lotus, right? That's
yes.
where it goes towards the sunlight, and that's
totally.
Sort of,
and it becomes the most beautiful eternal flower because, and as you said, grows toward the sunlight, which is that all of hope that the sun is giving, right? So, right, if you could put that spirituality of that flower into a human being,
absolutely,
we are always surrounded by some sort of a muddy water-like scenario.
Absolutely. All humans are,
Right. Today we might be good, but tomorrow something will come. Something or the other. Humans are supposed to battle, sort of challenges like a lotus does, right? And then bloom. But then at the same time, if you see the property of the lotus and the lotus leaf, the flower and the leaf, it's water repellent.
Yes.
Right? So the spirituality behind that and the message. Spirituality is basically, in my definition, if it gives you good spirit, good feeling. The message from that is basically be detached with the outcomes. Be thankful.
Yes.
Have gratitude. Don't regret, but learn from every scenario. Don't build that sort of enigma, sort of, negative feelings from any situation. Have gratitude. So that's where I realized when I started putting the various aspects of my life, I'm indeed becoming one of those lotuses. But then one other powerful message is lotus in India, especially in India. They say a human being's purpose ultimately is to become Sahasra Kamala. Kamala means a lotus. Sahasra means infinite. So if you take, and once again, throughout my book, I wrote about how each situation in a moment of challenge or adversity has taught me certain qualities. For example, my joint family has taught me the concept of universality, right? Not just about me, but about everyone else that I come across or relate into, which have taken that spirit into my profession. That message from my battle as a rare disease patient when I'm trying to work with companies focused on patients with rare diseases or even without rare diseases. So we all should keep on blooming those petals. For example, simple thing I always say to people, keep smiling. Build your petal of smile, right? Right?
Absolutely. You have that already built into you, it looks like.
Absolutely. So you can keep on building those petals and then build those circles. Meaning, once again, the spirituality of Kamala is the flower doesn't grow individually, it grows in groups. Yes. That's why you become what you're surrounded with. There's a good saying too, right? Mm-hmm. So share your journeys, talk about your failure, talk about your adverse situations, not just talk about successes, because social media can be used in the most powerful way if we really communicate about all of these aspects. About how I'm becoming a superstar, how I'm becoming a VP or a VP, right? But how did it get there? It's those communications are very important.
So that's where your title is basically, you're trying to say how you can be surrounded by challenges and be rooted in them like the Kamala, and yet you bloom with hope towards the sun. And that's part of your journey. And that's what you want to say with your own life example, pretty much.
Totally. And intention is if it can connect with anyone at any aspect of their life. As a student, I wrote, as a family member, I wrote growing up, right? As a child, as a daughter, and how girls and women, we still battle with so many challenges, with COVID even putting more challenge on overall the functionality of the
Absolutely.
Mother Earth. If it can make a difference.
Yes, absolutely. And, Dr. Maddali, picking up from, what you spoke about family and things like that, I want to sort of give an idea to the viewers and our readers about how, challenges have always been part of your life, right? I mean, pretty much since you were very young, but you've always had this sort of resilience. And I think it's also, you talk about this in the book, is because of the way you were raised in a joint family. You had that support system that you could sort of back up on, and which is very much sort of what has shaped you to be what you are today. So can you talk a little bit about those challenges and what helped you exactly to sort of, face them the way that you have today?
Oh, absolutely. So maybe I'll take a moment to explain about my experience in the joint family. What is actually a joint family? Mm-hmm. Kind of getting rare nowadays, right? So so my father and his brothers, all of them lived in one single house, less than 2,500 square feet. Yes. So 21 of us, 18 years in the same house. It's a family.
For a very long time, I was in a joint family too, Dr. Maddali.
Oh, really? Nice. That's amazing experience. So, you can vouch on that, right? So really, it's an amazing experience wherein, obviously, you would think, oh my God, it will be so crowded. No, it's actually full of the energy and life, right? So, many of us can connect, especially in America, wherein you have these huge houses and then, everybody gets a room and still we complain, oh my God, I need a little bit of more space in my life, right?
Privacy from what exactly?
Yes, absolutely. So we really, what the joint family system has taught me is living with, once again, with grandparents, living with, uncles, aunts, cousins, is the caring and sharing is one of the most important aspects, which really also has showed me how self-care and self-share is very important too. within this ecosystem, how we all had not only our own space, but also we had our shared sort of, there's a space meaning not physical, the mental, and the respect
Exactly.
and the gratitude, right? All of that. So, that slot in the family tree that everybody, sort of deserves.
Absolutely.
So, and also one of the most unique experiences in this part of my life was my grandfather. My grandfather at the age of 49 was paralyzed for life in bed. He was in bed for more than 20 years. And he unfortunately died on my birthday, which I used to think it was unfortunate at the time. But now, if I put it back, it was deliberate that he did that. I feel like that way I would never forget him. Right? You got to take positive. So that was one of the role models which I complimented. So, he's like my grandfather's battle with his own health. He was a headmaster of a school and he shaped so many lives. And I've seen it, even sitting in the bed with one hand, one leg, and completely paralyzed mouth, like to one side. He would try to talk, he would write with his left hand,
Wow.
So, he didn't give up. He was a fighter, he was a warrior. So, so that actually taught me a lot about, I think that was the first seed of self-empowerment, that you need to really learn, from the adversity and build that resilience and empowerment and bring the transformation. So where I'm going with this is, I think family is also defined by you. That also taught me that experience is, it need not be a nuclear family like today we're all living like that, including me. But in my mind, in my approach, and in any of my sort of, in my day-to-day activities, my intention is all about Vasudhaika Kutumbam, it's called in Sanskrit, which is the world is a family.
Yeah.
So I think when your intentions are like that, your actions and also your opportunities also will come. That's the law of attraction.
Mhm.
Until you enable it, then only you will experience it. So if you want me to prove it, I'm the proof.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, and also one other thing that I love, especially that helped with my challenges, is I have seen the synergy between, we all talk about now gender diversity issues, all of that, right? But the synergy between all the moms, all the dads, and intergenerational synergies, all of that was just amazing. We had our differences. We were not a perfect family. We had our good fights, learning fights.
Of course.
Right? So, and we would be at the end of the day, one family, no matter what sort of differences. And especially, I would actually, a shout out to all the women in my family, starting with my grandmother, who raised seven kids, right? She had 5 sons, which are my dad and his brothers, and one elder daughter and one younger daughter. But what I liked was the resilience that this woman had. And none of the kids, including her, none of them, and including us, grandkids, had mental health issues to live with, right? Completely imbalanced, that would completely traumatize you. So meaning, so the way how she raised the family members, that impression, that memories really helped me cope up with many of my challenges. If my grandmom could handle so much challenges in life, I think I can also, handle this challenge. So I literally, that experience with in a joint family helped me to connect with various people in various situations. So that way, that's the purpose of living together in one house, right? You want to learn from each other and build the character in you and the elements in you to battle, the life, challenges appropriately. So one important thing.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
you had even early on, you had, your issues with your eyes and everything,
Yes.
right? So that itself was, I mean, it was big at the time because you were only 3, I think, 2 or 3 when you were diagnosed
Yes.
with myopia. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's where I was alluding. One important thing was basically I was born with very high myopia. And obviously today, whenever any one of you have gone a newborn into a pediatrician office, they would have all checklist, right? For the eyes functioning, heart functioning. But at the time, there was nothing like that. By the age of 3, I had -4, meaning I cannot see, things far away. So I'm nearsighted. So I can see. So throughout my childhood, I battled with, very high, I'd say myopia. By the age of 10 or 11, preteens, I had -14.
Wow.
So sometimes I didn't even realize, it's like, how did I study? And it's extreme pain, fatigue I used to have. And then I used to sleep like a baby by 8:30, and I had to have a huge battle because she was so competitive in everything she does. She was straight A, in everything. She's bachelor's in science. She couldn't leave the town and pursue medical degrees. So she was like, you are doing it because you like science. You are doing it. She was after me always. I'm like, I will do it, but in my own way because I like science too. So that kind of a very good synergy. Lucky me. Otherwise, I don't know how it would have been. I can connect with many people who would come now. Oh, my daughter is not into. So I'm like, let them do what they want to do. So in that regard, coming back to that challenge, day-to-day challenge, literally as a kid, imagine I was not allowed from a cautious perspective and a care perspective to go out and play much because I used to break my eyeglasses. Now it's synthetic, right? They don't break,
Right.
but back at the time, and it's also so costly,
Exactly.
it will take a month for the glasses to come.
Yes.
I know. So, but one other experience with this is I used to play in the nighttime, remove my eyeglasses. Obviously, every one of us, we want to look good. And I'm like, okay. And for the mirror, I had to really sneak into the mirror and see who I am.
Oh,
Okay. So I used to talk to myself, who are you? So, how do you look? So,
oh,
without the glasses, obviously with the
oh.
glasses, I know who I am. But then at the sky, I used to gaze. I loved stargazing. So whenever obviously with the glasses, I would see these beautiful stars, but without the glasses, as that bright stars, right? Few of them that are calling you, right? So I used to get this message of hope. It's like, oh my God, with the 55% loss of vision. So medically, my eyes were 55% loss of vision.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, which I came to know recently, believe it or not. But as a child, how I coped up with that, right? When the rest of the world was going around with their beautiful eyes, right? Nothing masking them with like soda glass. So I used to hear to this inner voice. You can not only see things nearby, obviously, which I can only see, but you can also feel things which are far, far away. That was my inner voice. So that few stars that I could barely see like firecracker. So I used to get this power of hope. It's like, oh my God, okay, you know what? I think might be now I know the term once I hit 20.
Exactly.
Perception, imagination. That was the message that my inner voice was giving. And that was something that I took actually in my day-to-day activities and also into my profession. I would ask questions which are imaginary, which I would perceive, which is beyond what someone can see. That has actually taken me to handle my personal situation as a rare disease patient, but also my professional sort of acumen to excel and also to learn and excel, I must say. On learning and excel, learn more because learning never ends. With that imaginary sort of approach or attitude, and then the perceptual intelligence, I would call it as, where I would never hesitate to talk.
Yeah, that shows, Dr. Maddali, your sort of the way you think is so different, because see, you started off with veterinary sciences, and then, you know, you sort of shifted over to pharmacology and health and life sciences, and sort of you didn't just shift over, you sort of used this knowledge that you had so beautifully in, you adapted it to whatever you could. All of your learning are sort of interrelated and connected. You know, that's so interesting to me. And I also read in your book about how you almost got expelled here in the US after
Yes.
your biggest struggle to get to the US, and then you almost got expelled. So I think that's a sort of, but you worked your way through it through your charm, I'm guessing, mostly, and your persuasion skills, I'm guessing. Talk to us about how, you know, that shift happened, and maybe you can just tell us a little bit about that experience that you
Oh,
had.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think this would connect with every one of us who have come here, sincerely, right?
Yeah.
Passing through all the checklist of immigration and and steering away from families emotionally, right? And it's a very big step, if, especially for a girl to come all the way here.
Yeah.
It's still true, right? Especially, from Southeast Asian culture
Mhm.
who are so emotionally bonded, with the family. So
Especially
I
from a
came
joint family.
totally. Thank you for bringing that up because I have to fight with 5 fathers and 5 mothers.
Exactly. They all have different points to make, right? Yeah.
Totally, totally. And no one did it in anywhere, even in the extended family. So it was a big, big step for me. That means I have to live up to expectations. That means I am a role model for anyone who wants to pursue that path, especially without a marriage, not coming as a dependent, with a husband, but rather pursuing it independently as a student for higher education. So I came all the way here into a direct PhD program. It was just an amazing opportunity, master's waived because of especially one important thing was it was actually my statement of how I wrote, what I want to do, and everything. So that kind of it's an interesting analogy that my statement of purpose was the one that actually gave me a green signal in the visa office. And the visa officer was asking me, "Did you write this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I did write that." So I'm like, he was impressed with what I really want to do in healthcare. Um, so one important aspect that I want to bring here is I saw my family, none of them are doctors, none of them are, into healthcare, except my dad briefly into organic chemistry, but we are all pharmacists even today. We own, a double digit, pharmacies, both in veterinary medicine and human medicine. Right around my 10th grade, I saw the family blooming into obviously ethical, profitable, impact-based healthcare business from human medicine expanding into veterinary medicine as well. And the farmers would come. The gratitude the farmers used to shower was amazing. Because if one sheep or one goat would be affected by a virus or bacteria, the whole class would get affected as the virus spreads. We all know now with COVID, what it means. So it means a life really for a farmer when a pharmacist guides them with the right medication and timely. I've seen my family travel around to villages, teach farmers, take a textbook, teach them in their language, take all the advancements in veterinary medicine or human medicine wherever applicable. And especially in veterinary medicine, farmers live in rural areas. So my family really has done a stunning job about which is one of the mantras of my approach is take innovation, meaning any advancements in science and medicine in the context of this field, take it to the end user or customer or patient. Because all the time they are not able to access information, right?
And that's
So,
what it's meant for to begin with. But
so that was the inspiration for me. All of this medication, all those tools, the magical tools doctors have is basically innovation, the term I didn't even knew at the time. Research, it was. So I came to United States with that full passion, and, in my Kamala. So basically it came all the way here. And what happened? The second semester was first time I heard the term or the word term paper. So you need to write a term paper I thought, obviously, so term paper, a specific topic given, you have to research and you try. So it's an era of the internet, right? You're learning and very candid. I never did it, and I never knew even the guidelines. And then I researched it, and I sincerely researched it, and I put it on a piece of paper, and I put my name. Okay, and then a week later, I get a call from my professor. You need to come into the office from my lab. So I was like, okay, this particular professor who has given you this course thinks you have plagiarized. You didn't put any references. You have, luckily I rephrased it. I didn't kind of, copy it as is. But I never knew, silly me, I never even knew to ask what are the guidelines, number one. I never knew. And I'm like, oh my God, that it's such a huge felony at the time. So once again, it's that moment of failure, right? Wherein if I didn't express what I didn't knew, what I didn't knew, meaning don't hesitate. It doesn't matter if you're a student, even if you're a family member, or even if you're an executive, if you didn't knew something, talk about it. What I told to my professor was, oh my God, I didn't knew that this would be that. Why would I take somebody else's credit? That's dumb. So that's common sense, right? And I asked him and I told him, we never even knew the guidelines. We never even were trained. So really, and he actually, in his obviously he was so ticked off. He was like, you're not even eligible for a master's. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, don't say that. Don't say that. You know how much passionate I am. You know what I'm doing in the research. You know my ideas, how I talk to you. And he said, it's you and the other Indian student. In a good way. He's like, the other Indian student who happens to be from your country, both of you are. And thank God that he actually told me that it's another international student, which happens to be an Indian student. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you for saying that. Because that validates that we are not trained. I told that it's a system issue.
He was probably in the same boat as you were.
In the same boat. Then I said, give me time. And I go and meet the vice chancellor. Him sincerely. Let the Almighty, or let the universe call it short. I went down. What I loved in the education system here is
empathy. Absolutely.
Listening, right? How they give respect. Doesn't matter if you're a student, if you're a professor, right? Absolutely. I love that, which I missed in my experience as a student in veterinary medicine when I lost 1 year for shortage of attendance. Mentioned in one of my wherein I mentioned that it's a wonderful education system in India, but India lacks that.
Absolutely.
So the vice chancellor was amazing. And he actually liked the fact that I was not just advocating for myself, but for every student, international student. I was requesting him, please give some prerequisites or give a sort of a model paper and make sure that you set up guidelines. Make sure that students read these guidelines and actually sign that they have read the guidelines. So I was saying this because I was so panicking and I was telling him how I have to convince so many dads and moms, and you can imagine how much, how I was living from paycheck to paycheck these 6 months, which I didn't even tell my father, mother, because they would just say, come back. Because, they're all queens and kings right there with our families, right? They don't want us to go through all of these handles, right? So one thing the vice chancellor really, complimented me was, your thoughts are so universal. He used this word. And you remember about my joint family experience, I was saying that petal of universality.
The Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam
yes.
concept.
So how you care for others, how you stand up for others as well. And I actually took that student with me. He was standing next to me and I will talk. I was like,
he was probably more scared than you, and he probably didn't say a word.
He was panicking. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to leave this country. I'm like, no, this is a beautiful country. We know how much support we are getting from our professors. I'm sure if the professor is that good, I'm sure the senior management, higher management, because it's culture, right? And my experience with my family too is like, not like just one of us. All of us have have learned from each other. So I was like telling to this student, it's like, it must be a cultural thing, how wonderful, our experience just within the 6 months is, it's a sincere mistake we did. I'm sure there will be an opportunity, for us that like we can retake the test, we can take a much more complex test. I was telling him, and I'm like, but the provost, the vice chancellor was just amazing. So, and then now because of that, we have a prep course, for international students. The university was so amazing. They brought the changes. Even that professor was so thankful to me. And one other thing you will love that is lessons learned from that. I wanted to really challenge myself. You know what? If this is the impression that I have given knowingly or unknowingly, I need to prove myself. So I actually wrote a grant at the time. It's called as principal investigator. Your advisor can become a PI. Okay. And you can become a co-PI. So I wrote a grant to American Heart Association because my research was in cardiovascular. But I remember those beautiful moments, my professor sitting down next to me, reviewing word by word my grant writing, and he was smiling. He's like, no, I'm not questioning. I want you. So I was like, actually, I need that because this is where you are actually teaching me to become a poet. That's where I actually, but then poet, literally. So because I am learning how to write better and express better, it's also scientific terminology. So I asked him, if you don't mind, I know it's too much for you, but I would love you to, teach me, while I'm, taking my first publication as well. So you can imagine now how I could publish a book versus, how I've gone through, how my writing has got me into trouble, my lack of skills, at that time. And my grant was accepted, which was just amazing. $50,000 grant was given. And I actually became the first student in the Department of Biomedical Sciences to get a full grant in the history of that university. Yes. Wow. And being a first year, like almost a second year student at the time. And also they gave me a full scholarship. So, and I got like a superior graduate student award. I'm like, oh my God. And where I'm going with this is every challenge builds those attributes in you if you have an open mind. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Don't be, yes, I cry. I even cried today if I let something comes, but I will wipe my tears. Like Nelson Mandela said, I will get up. I will not only get up, but I will also try my best for others to, in similar situation, to handle like I am trying to do. And say, how did you do that? Can I really, learn from you? So that's very important, I think, advocating for others and for your own self. Absolutely. And here you are, Dr. Maddali, and, the kind of work you do is so sort of an opaque area for, common man, right? Because, you go to a hospital, you see the doctors, you go to a pharmacy, you see the pharmacist, but somewhere in between, a lot of things happen and a lot of research goes and, and it's sort of an opaque area. So kind of, could you in layman's terms sort of explain the kind of work that you do to bring, innovation and medicine to the patients? Sure, definitely. I think I don't recall who said the saying. Once again, I have to be careful. So someone unknown resource. The more we know, the more we also acknowledge that we don't know much more. Absolutely, that's the truth. That is so true in science. I agree. And with COVID, we all are acknowledging, we all have now gratitude for every day wherein it's a rebirth. Every day is a rebirth. If you have that sort of gratitude, you will live life to the fullest, right? So, and it has shown very clearly how we are now being challenged with various variants and strains, right? So there itself is the proof that how complex our bodies are, how beautiful and how complex our bodies are. So one experiment really changed my approach. This is very important. Life in a Petri dish, I call it as. Petri dish is wherein it's a glass circle sort of in a dish. And then you would actually put a gel and you would grow cells in it, or you would grow bacteria or fungus and you would put tests in it. Okay. So, but in my case, I was taking a pig heart cell, okay, as a part of the experiment to understand why males, in this context, a male pig, which was from the slaughterhouse that we had to bring. And then you would separate the heart cell from the carotid artery, which is one of the arteries, vessels. And then you would actually light up the cell under a microscope in a dark room.
Okay.
If it's okay, I think it's a fabulous opportunity to share the fact that it is actually a Zoom video interview. I just want to share something, if it's okay with you.
Sure. Let me make you the host, and you're the host now, so you can share the screen.
Okay. I think the picture is 1,000 words, right? Do you see my photo?
Yes.
Okay. I call this as the Mona Lisa of science.
The Mona Lisa of science. Now there is a unique piece.
So this is what I published it formally in 2005. This is that cell I'm talking about, where it's a heart cell. And we would take in a dish and we would light it up and we will understand. So we would put various amounts of, say, stress hormone, dexamethasone.
Okay.
We wanted to see, how the cell is. So before even that happening, look at this sort of a spectrum. The red dots you see with the yellow is where the life, it's like the mother's womb.
Could you browse over it, Dr. Maddali?
Like zoom it?
No, just point your arrow to
yes, here. You see these lumps?
Yes.
That's where the nucleus, that's where the cells divide. That's where all of the activity of, life and death happen.
Oh, okay.
Just like that, we have, oh my God, zillions of cells, humans, zillions of cells, wherein every day the human body is basically, expelling the cells which are naughty, and also replicating the cells which are necessary, and also maintaining the cells which are, destined and which are actually meant to function. For example, we have various types of cells. Where I'm going with this is, look at the structure and the architecture of the cell. Okay. Just one cell. Mm-hmm. If it can be this beautiful, it's almost like the Hubble telescope has taken a photo of the galaxy.
True.
Imagine the beautiful making of what we are actually at one cellular. So this particular experiment has actually changed my perception of science. I'm like, oh my God, wait, this stunningly beautiful. Like, it's a pig cell. Imagine how a human cell is, right? The most complex, sort of being on earth. And I'm like, oh my God. So I started appreciating this particular experience more and more in my day-to-day activity. For example, veterinary medicine. In that context, I was trying to understand through a pig model, how to understand why men beyond 50 have cardiovascular issues. So we were trying to study why these blockages happen in the blood vessels, right? All of that. But the same knowledge is applied, first of all, number one, how cross-application, collaboration is very important. Is the fact which we never, I think in many of the countries, we never were taught. Like, we were only taught, oh, if you pursue biology, these are the only professions. If you pursue engineering, these are the only professions. But this whole STEM concept that we all talk about for our kids right here, or nieces, nephews, cousins, right, is like in real world, if you see. And also, irrespective of profession, even if you are a housewife or a homemaker, right, there is so much cross-application and collaboration, right? We learn from one simple experience, and we might make a huge difference in a huge sort of a scenario. The same thing, wherein here you're taking insights from veterinary medicine into human medicine in understanding the processes, the mechanisms that are happening at the cellular level. But then, not only that, the journey didn't stop there. Okay, if the heart system, the heart, the blood vessels in the heart, where you're seeing these occlusion, meaning blockages happening. Same is actually happening in cancer, meaning cells are proliferating. Like I've shown that picture wherein that mother's womb, that's where all the processes happen. Cancer cells, uncontrollable growth happens. And why the body is not able to tackle that? Because we all have cancer cells. We all have it, but the body has a mechanism to expel it. So when that imbalance happens, that's when certain type of cancers happen. It can be inherited, it can be environmental related. Food, your thoughts, your actions, industrial pollution, all of those aspects. There is so much cross learning between the various body systems as well. Same is happening in Alzheimer's patients. Then there is this blockages happening between the neurons, and these deposits are blocking, and the neurons are not able to communicate with each other. And so, so it's just amazing how much cross application is there through my research at the university level that I learned. So when I was taking courses, not only in School of Veterinary Medicine, but also engineering, School of Medicine, it was just amazing. And that's the same approach that I was blessed enough to take into. Then now with coronavirus, COVID, many of us know what clinical trial is and how complex it is to develop a drug or a medication. And it's a very tedious process.
And Dr. Maddali, you were on the task force for COVID too, right?
Yes, yes. So, wherein we were really guiding a lot of testing companies, how to build a test, how to really take the test to FDA process. First of all, building the test, the right science behind it, and also commercialization is one of the biggest challenges, as we all know. So, connecting them to the right stakeholders, how to take it to the market, all of those aspects. So really, it's such a wonderful, I would say, opportunity for anyone in science. It doesn't matter if you're an engineer or a doctor or a scientist, or a biologist. Collaboration is a higher source of innovation. This is what I would say. Now, medicine, in that regard, is no more one drug for all. It is the right drug for the right patient. So one of the aspects that I want to talk briefly about is precision medicine. How today's medicine and future medicine is in the path wherein it is taking into consideration the difference in our bodies. Because your DNA and my DNA vary by the 0.1%. Can you imagine 0.1%? But we all might look the same, like obviously the same body parts, but we are different by the 0.1%. That 0.1% is what is making you prone to a disease, or how you're recovering from a disease, from cold or cough. So same thing with COVID, why every patient is actually, or every person is basically reacting differently, how your immune system, how your other bodily systems are really, are unique. So that's where precision medicine is going, wherein, okay, what type of genes have you inherited, right, from your parents and grandparents? What type of genetic modifications? It's called as epigenetics, meaning day to day. That's why good old grandma saying, your gut health is overall health. Number one, what you become, what you eat, you become what you think, right? You become what you're surrounded with. All of the science is going there, wherein how all of these day-to-day lifestyle factors are defining or bringing genetic changes.
Wow.
So not only inherited, surprisingly, not even 20 to 25% of cancers out of 200 types of cancers are inherited. Most of it are induced. So, there's a beautiful book, Emperor of All Maladies by Dr. Sanskrit Mantras. It explains about various factors. The Harvard-trained, American Indian by background, amazing background, Pulitzer Prize. But my eyes were in, my soul was in tears really when I was reading what are the various factors causing today's new generation diseases, cancer, and many of these immunological diseases. We are hearing how kids in teens and 20s are having this IBD, Crohn's diseases, all these gut-related diseases, right? Many of these diseases, because we really have to nurture our bodies from a nutrition-wise, from thoughts-wise, from emotional-wise, emotional and responses-wise, right? So precision medicine, in my view, is not only restricted to designing the right drug based on the gene type, or any sort of marker. It's called biomarker because it's a biologically circulating marker, which is unique in that patient, which might be elevated or which might be underrepresented. That is actually making the patient prone to the disease. But also, I think we are in the era of going towards precision health. So wherein, okay, for example, one of the companies, amazing, wherein they just got FDA approval, wherein they would take a swab and they would understand, and the stool test, and then they would understand your microbiome profile, meaning what set of microbes are in your gut. Because we are a walking library of zillions of microbes. We're a host for zillions of microbes. We depend, it's such a beautiful symbiosis in our bodies, wherein we really, in our gut, how do you think we're processing our foods? Microbes that help us. When there is that imbalance happening, that's when you get a lot of these sort of, challenges in the day-to-day functionality of the body. So science is going there beyond not only what is making you disease prone, what doesn't make you disease prone is an important approach.
Correct. Prevention is always better than cure,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So prevention is where, that's why I said precision health. And I personally feel nothing can beat, I would love to see Ayurveda getting there. Wherein if you see,
Ayurveda,
yes,
yeah.
totally. And in regard to precision medicine, I also want to highlight one thing. That's where genetics and genomics, you are hearing huge investments happening in understanding the genetic differences in a disease scenario, in a healthy scenario. One aspect, I must say, being in the genetics field right now, with Quest Diagnostics, especially a lot of good experience in understanding not only in cancer patients, but one study, I love it, is just 6 months ago got published, is people who enable any sorts of prayer or hopeful gestures, a person that you like. It might be mindfulness, right? Meditation, prayer, anything, it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to talk about any sort of religious ups and downs here for any, but it's more about whatever can make you really calm down, handle the situation, focus on the breath, right? Whatever you can just calm down and focus. So that is prayer in my view, right? How you are taking moment of gratitude, but be thankful to your own body at times where you thought she or he will panic, but it's not. You're handling it in a better way. So there are genetic changes happening when people take that mindfulness or meditation or prayer or strategies for hope or calmfulness, right? All of that. There are positive genetic changes.
Wow.
At the immune system level.
Wow.
So where I'm going with this is there is thousands of years of experiences from the from the Eastern culture. So thanks to the Western medicine and advancements in innovation, wherein all these sort of studies are going to really give us a message that I think you should really, kind of find that sort of, hopeful gestures. It can be in the form of anything that you like, or it has been passed on to you, or that you believe in. It can be formless as well. It can be literally your thoughts, which are formless, to be very candid, positive thoughts, positive deeds that can really bring those positive and make you respond better. There was another study, I think it was published in 2019, of eating nuts, tree nuts, wherein stage 3 colon cancer patients were actually responding better.
Wow.
Responding better. So that good old habits, or how research is showing now, how that full balanced meal, is very important, right? So seek the right information, talk to people and communicate and leverage that information. That's another biggest challenge with today's innovation is so much information is coming, but you need technology to be taken to the patient and advancements to be taken to the doctor, not just to the patient, because that's the level of information that's coming. So I would say, pursue these sort of, professions wherein there's a lot of impact, not just profit to you or to the company, but a lot of impact and purpose.
How do patients actually get hold of this latest innovation and information, Dr. Maddali? If, let's say, somebody is in a situation, let's say, for example, my mom is a recovering cancer patient and she went through radiation. So even though the cancer per se is cured, let's say, she has so much side effects from the radiation, she still is like, it's a struggle for her. Each day is a struggle. So if there is some research that's done, let's say, how can some layman person like me get hold of research like that?
Absolutely. And I think this is what the overall industry and the humanity who is in the field of science and medicine is realizing. Very candid, this awakening is just in the beginning, wherein, like, oh my God, there is so much advancements in the approved drugs, medications, but also support therapies. And also, we all know many of these medications. For example, let's take chemotherapy and radiation. Fatigue. I can connect so well with your mother's, symptoms, because in my condition, if you see, it's fatigue, neuropathic pain,
Yes,
all of these conditions,
absolutely.
right? So, and there are no medications for this. You
No,
have to take alternative therapies or integrated therapies. Where I'm going with this is, as a caregiver, the role of a caregiver and a patient are so important, especially caregiver, to access the information. So patient advocacy organizations play a huge role based on the type of the cancer. That's what I love in this country, especially in US, and also in many other countries. The change is coming out. Patient-focused organizations are taking much more broader role in leveraging various resources to the patients. Not only about medication, not only about resources to secondary consultation, but also how to handle various sort of side effects. Because these sort of diseases, especially cancer, not only distort your body, mind, and soul, but the families, because it's a lot that you're trying to handle. So, not only from a non-profit sector perspective, but from a for-profit sector perspective, I think, because at the end of the day, you have to once again reach out to various patients. So the power of social media is just amazing. But there are so many, several closed Facebook groups. Once again, HIPAA policy, enabled, PHI enabled. That way, your personal health information is protected. But communication is very key in these aspects. First thing is talk about your scenario. Be open. So one of the talks I gave recently with one of the International Indian American Association was about cancer, wherein we brought in one of the cancer patients, we brought in an oncologist, and then I came as a scientist and an innovator and also a rare disease patient, wherein communication is key. Talk about it, talk to other patients. Also ask your hospital or hospital system. They would have local resources. But also on top of that, there are organizations which are now patient focused, like Grit Health. I am taking up this name because it's not a promotion. I know I'm an advisory board member there, but I actually mentioned about them in the book. The reason why I bring up about them is it's the most empathetic business model I've ever seen, including the founder, two-time cancer survivor, and everyone in the team is a cancer survivor. And they have built an app. There are several cancer engagement apps coming, wherein topics from prayer to science and innovation is out there. Topics from insurance to reimbursement to, obviously any sort of care models, anything like that is out there. So to your question, the change is coming, and we are seeing that more and more happening in the digital health space and also in the artificial intelligence space, wherein we are also learning very uniquely from every patient's journey. So you have to take that. What are the good things that this patient have done? What are those common approaches several patients have taken? And how do we bring them as tools, right? Or as initiatives or guidelines for other patients and caregivers? Because you don't want a caregiver to be burnt out, because these are very complex diseases which you're dealing with for half decade to decade or forever in some scenarios. So that's where I think communication with other patients and also patient organizations, I would advise immediately. And especially I've seen, being a South Asian, many of the South Asians hesitate to communicate about health, but you have to communicate.
Yes.
It is very important because it will lead a positive mind shift, I would say. So instead of a criticizing mind shift, oh, this is happening only to me, to my family.
Yes, that's the thing I hear from my mom all the time.
right?
This
So,
happened to me. Yeah.
no, it will shift that mindset. Okay, this is teaching me something better to handle. So, that's the mindset we need to build. I'm becoming a better person. What is this teaching me versus why is this happening? Is the mindset that we need to in our journeys as patients. And I can advocate that as a patient. That's what my half of my book is about, is like, what, I'm not a Kamala who is battling with a situation where she is randomly getting paralyzed. That's not just me. That's one aspect of me, right? One aspect of me that is actually, making me more and more motivated to address why me, who else are like me, what else and what is it that we are made of, and what is it that we can do to learn from this and handle the situation and help us.
Dr. Maddali, that's the thing about you. Physical challenges are one thing, but then you are someone that has also battled, a lot of mental health issues, taboo, like you said, in the South Asian communities, we don't talk about it, and, it's all about your happy Facebook updates or whatever. But most of the time, what happens behind the scenes is always sort of sheltered. And you have dealt with suicide, miscarriages, which I personally have gone through myself, several. So what is it, that society, as a society, as a friend that's around this person, what is it best that you can do to help, sort of, if you especially know that this person is going through something, what is it would you advocate is the best thing to do?
Well, first thing is, if obviously a person, not everybody will be like my own experience, right? I didn't talk to anyone when I called the shots in my life, right? So, really, and today, obviously, I don't want to even find what's the reason, because first of all, I don't even know what was the lowest point, right? Leaving the family, leaving friends, leaving the places I'm familiar with, everything. So in a country where, but then would that make a justification for me to take life? No, right? There is a reason why I have this rebirth and several rebirths that I'm having through. To be very candid, I actually faced more challenges after that situation. Would have taken life in many aspects, including in my current condition where I would become like a zombie, right? Or like a stone, and I couldn't respond. And there will be these thoughts, very scary thoughts. What if I am in a coma for life? I can hear everything. That's the scariest part, right? So imagine. So it's like, since I am a survivor, I can tell you, what? Every battle is in the best out of you. So I personally think first thing is, with the greatest and the deepest challenges that I've learned from my own adversity, sitting in that room wherein I have seen people with, oh my God, true challenges in life, wherein not having a mom or dad, not having food to eat even for a single day, multiple gang rapes, going through, right? Human trafficking, all of that, right? Imagine. So I think we as humans try to see problems too much through a Zoom lens. More than problems, I think we should see our gratitude through a Zoom lens. We really have to communicate. But that's why that's the first step I took by communicating, right? Is like, I talk about it, because if I don't talk about it, I'm lying to my own self that what I want to really bring the change as my tagline, right? Become the change. I don't want anyone going through that. Keep hearing from celebrities to even within one of the in Southeast Asian community, it's not so frequent, but it's becoming more evident how teens and also college students are actually committing suicide. There's a lot of sort of pressure within the families, right? Goals. Okay, if you can't reach a goal, talk about it. Might be you'll come up with a much more purposeful goal which you never even met, right? So it's okay. For example, for me to take as a 42-year-old, last year, So now you know my age, 40. So to take a stick, handle a stick. So it's like I promised to myself, actually, indeed, a Harry Potter wand in today's language. As per the mythology of spirituality, I promised myself it's a ritual, it's a trident that one of the Indian mythology gods have. It's like just making me think better, balance better, not because it can work. It's giving me a balanced attitude, balanced perception of life. There are so many positive books, positive people to talk to, positive movies, positive. There's so much access to wonderful social media, right? There's so much positivity, to be very candid, in the era of this innovation that you can go to it. It's at the end of the day, it's your choice how you want to go, right? So whoever is destined to will actually, I personally feel like if someone has learned from a situation, how small it can be, how big it can be, share that. Even with a random stranger, if you feel like, I did that. Sometimes in a very subtle way. I think when you're smiling, you look good, I said to a person because she was not smiling. So I know because I was observing. And actually, she responded saying that, thank you for assuring that because few people told me I don't look good. I'm like, no. So she opened up, saying that I was complimenting genuinely because I could see how much that bartender was working so hard. And I'm like, oh my God. So and then that one gesture has opened up the actual inner feeling in her, why she is not smiling, right? But simple things make a huge difference, so communicate. I was telling to my sixth grader, is like, oh, somebody, kind of, bumped him into a locker. I'm like, first I reacted, oh, did you tell the principal? And then I took a step back. That's the mom thing, right? I'm like, and immediately in 2 seconds I said, you know what, one day when you run into him or her, ask how can you help? Ask how can you help? Or give a candy. So something like that. So that simple acts of mindfulness, gratitude, thankfulness makes a huge difference, no matter if you know the person or don't know the person. And if you know someone is going through a battle, pick up the phone and talk to them. Might not be about that. Try to divert them. Hey, I want to stop by, right? Hey, wanna. So that communication is so important because that's why we humans are blessed with, as I said, as I've shown, that beautiful cell with zillions of cells. It doesn't make sense. Otherwise, we could have been one unicellular organism like a virus, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Maddali, you've come such a long way with all of your battles, and how do you define success? What does success mean to you?
Success is defined by you and only you. So really, for me, success means it's not defined by degrees. It's not defined by, who you are, meaning what family you come from or anything, but it's defined by in your actions, right? So definitely not titles, not degrees. Even if it's like being a homemaker. As I said, I actually didn't tell you this. I made my grandmother CEO of my family.
Oh.
And my paternal grandmother and my maternal grandmother, I made her the CFO of her family because if she didn't call the shots for saving that one house that was passed on, the family would have been on the road. And I called my mother the chief innovation officer because of her creativity. Her plus 12 and plus 11 books, where you remember in the biology textbooks where you have to draw, you have these are all the things wherein you have to draw a amoeba or a paramecium. Right? She was a hell of an artist. I was amazed at the level of intricacy and the detail that she captured. It was like, oh my God, it was like a Mona Lisa painting. Just like that cell, the level of detail she did it with a pencil, with a graphite pencil. Where I'm going with this is success is defined by you and only you. So, that moments of success, appreciate your moments of success. A good meal that you cook, it's a beautiful moment of success. Right? A good walk that you go, it's a beautiful moment of success. And obviously good job you get where you're happy and where you come back home with a smile, right? And also, obviously, yes, not every day might be like that, but you could always get back to that moment by handling that situation. The moment, if it can build the right character in you, this like that's success. The right attributes in you, that's success. That's why I said. And obviously, being in a professional sort of environment, for me in healthcare, to kind of, for any healthcare professional, my message is look at the empathy, look at the impact, look at the purpose, not just the profit. That's very important because it's clearly showing how the type of diseases are coming and how we really need to learn and manage. It's not just, there's no cure for many diseases to be very candid. You will be managing some diseases, many of these diseases. Really, we need to come up with innovative solutions, but also empathetic solutions. What else the patient, what else the family member might need is what we need to bring those sort of successful strategies and make the community and make the overall families, neighbors and community in the world a healthier place and a safer place to
Um, I'll wrap up soon. You're like on both sides of the spectrum, right? So you're on one side, on one end, you're here in, at the top of innovation, where in the cutting edge medicine, and you're winning these awards. And on the other hand, you are, a rare disease patient. So how do you sort of how has this played out in your life? Has this sort of been advantageous in the sense that, from each side, do you bring something from each side of the table? So how has that worked out for you?
absolutely. First thing, and I think it also relates to one of the questions, what should patients do when they're diagnosed with the disease? So 2015 was an awakening year for me, wherein I took one of the most challenging roles at a company wherein they were leveraging testing for diagnosis and monitoring of cancer patients, not only in solid tumors, we call it, means lung, pancreatic, these are all solid organs, right? But also in blood cancers, like leukemias, myelomas, and all. What I realized was blood cancers are so complex and the testing is involved. So, and then at the same time, my patient journey started becoming more naughty with almost 90% travel.
Okay.
So, so then I decided, okay, now the so-called testing, 90 plus tests were done on me and I had no diagnosis, correct diagnosis. And then you have all these wonderful tests in cancer and we're having a hard time in actually adopting those tests into the real world.
Okay.
Because doctors are far, far away from innovation. Patients are far, far away from innovation. For me to understand the real life insights, I started I opened my third eye. I think the really is like, I'm a patient, also standing up for patients through my professional acumen. Am I really able to take this impact within the cancer field that we are seeing in these advancements? And are cancer patients really benefited by these tests? Or what sort of challenges that they're having? So I started serving on patient advocacy boards. So as a board member, and oh boy, that's one of the best steps that I took because I am also able to share with them a lot of my science because many of these cancer patients, as we discussed, chemotherapy, radiation, even many of the pills or drugs that they take have innumerous number of side effects. It's a whole slew of different type of diseases they're handling with. So I thought, you know what, I should learn about my science, how others are handling, and also share how I'm also able to cope up with my science. So it's a full circle. So meaning I started taking this individually. So by taking, these advocacy roles and a caring and a sharing approach once again, and nurturing approach, and also education and learning approaches, then I realized, oh wow, if this is helping me as a patient to connect with other patients and to also build that right attitude, handle my health situation, and also learn how innovation is really, is far, far away from many patients. So I started connecting several dots personally and professionally. Then I started taking it to companies that I actually am formally working with. But also I started advising companies about how we need to take patient advocacy strategies, patient engagement strategies, patient empowerment strategies.
Wow.
So, that's when a lot of change is now coming, still a lot to come when you're designing a test or you design a test and you want to launch it. Not only you should actually connect in a market survey with a physician, the patients and patient advocacy. Take that voice of customer, voice of the patient is so important because ultimately it's patients is sort of that is the end user for this. And then it's more relevant now in clinical trials. One of the biggest challenges in today's innovation in medicine and science is clinical trial patient enrollment, wherein patients should be enrolled into trials, wherein 80% in the context of cancer, let's take, and even in immunology, 80% go to a local doctor. Even I would want to go to a doctor which is not more than 5 miles away or max 10 miles. I don't want to go to Johns Hopkins, which is 2 hours away. So literally, it became very clearly evident that indeed patient voice is so important. So you have to take patient voice and you have to take innovation to the patient. So that's when this whole opportunity is not only for me, but for many investors and many companies and many advisors like me who are blessed enough, who could see that angle, wherein, how patient voice is so important, are now guiding companies in not only from designing of a drug or a test or a trial, how to take it to the market, how the voice of the patient should be incorporated in all these aspects. And that's when you would actually enable rural health communities, many of the diverse communities, all of these health equity scenarios that are happening, challenges that are happening. That's when you will have a broader impact. All of the beautiful advancements that are happening in, say, in drug development, and also in testing perspective, in prevention perspective, in detection perspective, disease management perspective, mental health strategies, all of these aspects. So that's when these two are not separate, but they're interlinked. And that's where I built a lot of gratitude for my journey as a rare disease patient, is in how my journey is actually making me not only advocate for myself, but also for others, and learn about how do we really design better sort of therapies or tests in these conditions.
So, Dr. Maddali, you are in the field, currently you're in the field of artificial intelligence. So talk to us, give us an insight about how, artificial intelligence can be, really helpful in medicine.
Absolutely. So few things is where I actually would like to call AI as not artificial anymore with the learnings that I'm doing day to day as a professional and as a patient. It's augmentative intelligence, right? We are really and accelerating. We are really understanding our making better, who we are, what we are made of. And also in certain disease conditions like in cancer or in neuroscience, we are trying to understand what are the various mechanisms that are really driving cancer in certain patients. Like I was alluding to precision medicine. What pathways are there? So you can design better drugs. So that's where AI will lead to drug discovery, new molecules, new testing. What is it, that particular gene therein that is unique to this patient population? For example, in breast cancer, BRCA, BRCA gene testing is being done. And Angelina Jolie was the first woman who was so audacious to get mastectomy done, remove her breast. She was positive for it, and you have 50% chances of getting breast cancer. So if you can imagine, if you can bring more insights into various types of diseases and understand what's the biology behind it, and then have an AI sort of a solution in monitoring the patients and assisting with medical diagnosis is one application. And another application is drug discovery insights. Another one is, like if you can believe, prescription errors happen on a day-to-day basis.
Wow.
AI is helping with prescription error tracking. AI is helping with robotic assisted surgery. One of the latest sort of operating machines that was
Oh, is that the telemedicine thing, Dr. Maddali?
telemedicine is one, but robotic enabled, wherein you can actually operate a patient from here into India or China.
Wow.
Through satellite enabled and AI enabled. And then AI enabled video games, which are teaching doctors to understand complex cases. Because you imagine more patients are now there and less number of doctors. And even within doctors, you would have only few doctors, few percentage who are more experienced. So we need to set up other doctors for success, defining about success, right? The AI is going to help a lot of doctors, irrespective of their experience, to learn complex cases. And there are these beautiful video games one of the company designed, complex skin cancer cases or dermatology cases, and then cardiovascular cases, wherein it's just amazing. So if your child is playing video games, don't regret. You never know what they're becoming, because that's what the journey is that.
To be a doctor one day, maybe, perhaps.
Absolutely. Virtual nursing assistants. You see all of these virtual sort of, like these are learning machines wherein you would actually feel like as if you're talking to an individual, but it's an AI virtual admin or a nursing assistant that would document everything and then alert the nurse and also the doctor. And automated image analysis, for example, in cancer especially, they would take your tissue sample. There's a shortage of huge number of pathologists who would read cancer diagnosis or x-rays. In the case of COVID, it's a very good example, wherein an AI algorithm was designed, wherein you can pick up the algorithm, the computer can pick up the unique minor differences, really micro or nano differences that a human eye cannot, that would differentiate from a pneumonia to a viral infection and to COVID infection.
Wow.
So it's amazing how
precise that is, right? Yeah.
Yes. So that's where AI is going, about the various applications, how these various modalities of hope that AI revolution is bringing in healthcare. But also one other thing I want to compliment is the investment that is happening. There's a huge economic and community health impact that AI is bringing. A lot of investments are happening. So my message to current sort of generation, there's a lot of learning. A lot of people come to me, how did you end up in AI? I'm like, yes, I never stopped learning. And then also, not only that, how innovation is out there and how adoption is a challenge. That's where I actually figured out, okay, I need to really consult and advise for companies how to really adopt these challenges or these advancements. So where I'm going is there are so many purposeful and successful professions with infinite AI is bringing, not replacing professions. It's actually making doctors better, radiologists better, pathologists, scientists, nursing, informatics, huge opportunities. AI healthcare expert roles, scientific and medical affairs roles, machine learning roles, natural language processor roles, UX UI designers, data scientists, product development, cybersecurity, project management, data management.
That's like a huge industry in itself.
It is. In the next 10 to 20 years, they're saying a visible pipeline of biological applications could create approximately double-digit trillion opportunities for direct annual impact. There are literally more AI jobs and less AI professionals. So I would actually advise anyone who is currently in a role who can cross-apply, pursue an AI sort of in a degree and real-world experience. And then also any of the students, who wanted to pursue the classic sort of, STEM degrees, and also even if you wanted to pursue a doctorate degree or engineering degree, really AI has a lot of opportunity out there and a tremendous. So really, I would say it's not only just about dreaming, go act on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
So let's wrap up with your message, Dr. Maddali. What is your message, for, let's say, I would just want to, I thought I'll ask you for an aspiring pharmacology student, but then I think your message is is a broader audience, should really reach a broader audience. In fact, it applies to anyone and everyone. So let me just say, what's your message to the world?
To the world, I would say, Two things. One is, I think even for anyone pursuing in this field, I think there is a really powerful message is dream, 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 like Ejika said. Because you dream and you actually be aware that you're dreaming. Otherwise, because there is so much learning and opportunities that are out there that we are actually learning through, for example, with artificial intelligence, robotic enabled surgeries, adopting today's innovation through AI enabled strategies, digital health apps, communicating patients, right? A remote ECG, right? You know, if you look into it. So you don't need to be a typical doctor. It's the era of doctor, scientist, doctor, engineer, doctor, scientist, engineer, all sorts of combinations are happening. So the powerful message for any student in engineering, science, medicine, life sciences, even including lawyers, right? All of this is interconnected is dream, dream, dream. And realize that you're dreaming because your dream is going to come true one day. Otherwise, you'll not even realize that it's your dream that you're pursuing because it will give you a lot of happiness and it will define your own success, right? No comparison with anyone or anything. That's a message for anyone in the field, any professional or even any student. And the message for any human being as a scientist with spirituality, how I found purpose through every spiritual sort of, how do I say, sort of, battle, right? My battle with my disease, right? I stopped being fearful. I started being more, filled with gratitude, and I nurture my science. I rest, and then I recoup, and I am in a moment of rebirth. One of the good old Sanskrit mantras, I think that's a reminder we all need to have is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Is such an important, sort of a powerful mantra passed on to humanity by ancients. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. And may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom at all, for all. It's a very powerful, powerful mantra. You don't need to be a CEO of a company. You can define your life. You can empower your life by your thoughts and others. So that's why I have this.
Oh,
my definition of CEO is
when I'm CEO.
Yes. So and that's why I wake up is CEO is Chief Empowerment Officer. You should empower your life with the right thoughts and the right action. Then you are a CEO of your life. No room for comparison. Live life to the fullest and to the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Maddali.
You're very welcome. This has been quite engaging and quite, sort of enlightening for me.
Yes.